You want to tie up a really easy pattern, but with a tough material that likes to get away from you? Let's tie up the Squirmy Wormy. We'll start off here with Daiichi 4647, size 12 with a Hannock slotted red tungsten bead. We'll throw down a nice thread base with our UTC 70 Denier in red. Go ahead and work our way back all the way to the hook bend. Snipping off our tag end. We're going to put down a strong base of thread here so that when we tie in our first material, it grabs very nicely. Our first material is going to be the Squirmy Wormy material. We're going to tie it in here little bits at a time to really grasp that material. Take it a little bit at a time just to start it off. Makes it a little bit easier to grasp it. When you're working your way back to the hook bend, you want to pull that squirmy material tight so you can really get it to sit where you want it to sit and it doesn't get away from you too much. We'll go ahead and work our way down that material using light wraps. Don't get it too tight because then you might flare up that tail end of the wormy material. On our way back up, we'll go ahead and use a little bit more tension here to really grasp that wormy down and make sure it doesn't slip on that hook shank. We're going to throw in another piece of Squirmy Wormy material here. As you can see, I didn't just use one piece of material all the way through to make the body and the tail. I like to use two different pieces here so that you can get one in for the tail nice and secure right where you want it, and then you use a second one so you can make a nice tapered body. Same goes for this piece. You work your way back to the hook bend with light wraps, not too tight so you don't twist those two around the hook shank too much. Get that wormy material right where you like it. Put a couple more wraps on it. And work your way back up to the bead head using gradually tighter wraps so you can really get it grasped down nice. I'm using 70 Denier here, but normally you would use a little bit thicker thread. This is just what I had on my bobbin, so I figured I'd use it. But if you use 70 Denier or anything smaller than that, you get into cutting your wormy material a little bit and it gets hectic, so try to use a little bit bigger than 70 Denier. Okay, we'll go ahead and start wrapping in this wormy material for the body. Like to keep that pretty taut so that when you're working your way back up to the bead head, you can loosen it up and make a nice little tapered body. When I'm wrapping this to the bead, I like to lay it each wrap about halfway on the previous wrap. It makes it to where it kind of slips back and lays pretty flat for you so that it's not all bulky and out of proportion. When I get to the bead head here, you'll go ahead and pull it pretty tight while you tie it in. While I get her tied in here, this is a great spring pattern, especially during runoff when you have high water conditions, when the waters are muddy and murky and anything and everything are flowing down the river, including worms. Trout target these worms for an easy, meaty meal. This fly is best fished under an indicator or tight lined. You can give this pattern a little bit of action using the tight line method, being able to jig it every once in a while and really attract the eye of those fish. Now that we have our wormy material down, we'll go ahead and add a little red ice dub. Let's go ahead and build a little dubbing noodle. Try not to use too much dubbing here. I might have used a little bit too much, so I'll tear some off. When you're building the dubbing noodle, use small pieces of dubbing at a time so you can really get it twisted down onto that thread. Take that dubbing noodle, tie it in. Got that all tied in, so I'll pull my dubbing back just so I don't capture anything and get a nice little thread base down by the head so I can give it a little bit of a whip finish and tie it off. Well, that was a fun little pattern to tie, and it's a lot more fun to fish. Some people might call this a trash pattern, but I like to call it a trout attractor. Cut off our tail to the length that we want. That's the Squirmy Wormy. Thanks for watching, and fish hard.